Have you ever stopped and really thought about maps? On a map, the real world is shrunken down. A location on the planet is taken from a sphere to a dot on a rectangle. Highways are squiggles, lakes are splotches, cities are shaded squares. Do maps define reality or describe it? Maps represent a strategic attempt to make sense of space, but maps are useless without applicative knowledge, a guide, a key, a legend. We make sense of things, but things don't make sense on their own. We add our logic, our intuition, our feelings, our past experiences and frameworks, and then we decide on what is real. We write our own maps. So it is with marketing and law firm development. The marketing plans we agree to, the strategies that we accept as the reality of our development, are not a reflection of what's real. They are our maps, an attempt to define reality. And so, if growing a law firm is a voyage, a journey that you share with your partners, coworkers, staff, family members, and there isn't a map or a strategy, then you aren't a voyager in law firm development and marketing. You're more a voyeur, watching from the sidelines, attending conferences, picking up a book on sales here or a few CLEs there, watching a legal guru's video on YouTube, but never creating or defining your reality with your own hands. Never working on that map. That's what we're talking about today on Lawsome. Law firm development, marketing strategies, dreams, realities, and the places and spaces in between. Let's roll.
Lawsome, the podcast for law firms. Powered by Consultwebs.
Welcome back to Lawsome, the only podcast for law firms that stays fresh in your freezer for 6 months. We're here to inform, educate, and entertain the legal community on the latest in personal and professional development. I am Jake Sanders, known to law enforcement as the Texas Squeeze Man. And with me is my Mr. Wife and safecracker, Paul Julius. Paul, today is a special day in our relationship, isn't it?
Is it now?
I didn't know what you'd say.
I don't know what to say either. I thought this was I didn't know we were sharing this with everyone.
Well, years ago, you said yes, to be my Mr. Wife. And
in a strictly business though sense.
All business, no pleasure. I get no pleasure from working with Paul. It is all business.
As our nicknames basically lay out here, it's we've said yes to a life of crime. Basically.
Oh yeah, no, we've embraced it, and
B&E and safe cracking.
We're not looking back. We're not looking back. So, but we do have to wrap this up because we have to get to our parole officers. Do you want to tell them what's on the show?
On the show today, we discuss an article from introhive.com about legal business development trends. And then we talk to Lauren Kern, the founder and president of Lawyers Marketing Associates. We talk about strategies and marketing approaches to help grow your firm. And as always, we shifted into high gear with our guest with 5 questions we ask everyone.
Pull up a plate. It's the Hot Takes Buffet.
The Hot Take Buffet today is a sampled dish from introhive.com. It's by Adam Draper. It's entitled 5 Top Takeaways from Ackert's 2018 Legal Business Development Trends Study. Wow. Too long for a tattoo, I guess, but that's memorable. Let me start with the intro. Okay. Demand for legal services has stagnated, leaving firms struggling to earn new business and stay profitable, facing 2 typical options. There's the traditional route, increasing rates and slashing expenses, or there's the path shown to deliver stronger growth, which is investing more heavily in business development strategies. So this article basically outlines the business development practices that generate the most revenue. It's from a survey. 100 different law firms answered of various sizes, answering what was their top revenue generating marketing and business development practice. This was a really, really tasty article because it played into what we talk about later with Lauren from Lawyers Marketing Association. It's about your relationships, and it's about a strategy. So it's all client focused is all I'm seeing, and everything I'm seeing is marketing. Right at the top, it's sales coaching, client education, visiting clients, cross-selling, client teams, everything, asking clients for new business, client interview program, client. That's all I'm seeing. So what was your thoughts? I think my main takeaway from this is it is the client experience that you need to understand, and that's where all the development business insights come from in some kind of aspect. And Lauren talks about it later. It's doubled down. But what's your thoughts on this, Paul?
So I dig this. Number one, because there's an enumerated list. So you know that's a winner in my book.
It's a win.
But you found this article, and what really jumped out at you, and what kind of got me on board was there's two graphs in here. And you were just discussing the top revenue generating strategies.
Mm-hmm.
It is fascinating to see this laid out in a kind of most to least format. It's just amazing that advertising is at the bottom. And the other one that stuck out at me is there's another graph. Marketing budget as percentage of gross revenue, average is 2.3%. So it kind of speaks. They sort of play out each other. They're not spending what I would consider a ton of money on advertising or marketing in general. I mean, the client experience, let me run through the list first so everybody gets this. All right. Number one, coaching and education drive revenue. So Jake, that's what you just said. Sales and business development coaching was the number one most successful tactic for law firms of any size. Number two, make the most of your client relationships. Half of this chart is that. Right. Number three, collaboration breeds success. This is cross-selling. Again, you mentioned that. Number four, get out from behind your desk right now. No, it says human relationships are still the foundation of a business success. So again, it's another client-focused thing. Yeah, number five, it's time to shake up legal business development. If legal practices want to grow their firms, it's clear the industry as a whole is underinvesting and underperforming in terms of their marketing and business development strategies. So it is fascinating to me that this whole thing says get some coaching, get some business development and sales coaching. And what does that mean? That means you have to understand how to work with clients, how to work with these people, customer service, make the most of your relationship, cross-sell, get out from behind your desk. And then we talked to Lauren, and she says that's like the number one thing that people blow it at. So it's quite a dichotomy. It's quite a dichotomy. That's what struck me.
Yeah. So I think all of this is part of a marketing strategy. All of this is covered later in Lauren's law firm development scorecard. Yeah. And really, all of this is too much for one person to handle. If 57% of legal professionals are solo and small, how are you going to find time or the personnel or the bandwidth inside your brain to figure out what part of this you attack first? Am I supposed to never be behind my desk? Am I supposed to shake up all business development opportunities? Take all coaching advice? You have like 7 different coaches. There's like 10 different, chefs in the kitchen.
Why are you spinning that sign? I'm disrupting the legal industry.
Yeah. It's disrupted. Just consider it disrupted this Tuesday.
Because I'm not at my desk.
But we talk later about dreams versus reality in marketing and law firm development. And these are all great points. Everything in the Ackert survey, everything business development wise, advice, it's all great. But if you don't have a guide like Lauren or some agency you believe in to help implement and maintain these tactics, these practices, it's going to be short-term results that won't create long-term success. I love this advice, but I think the reason why Lauren is a refreshing voice inside this echo chamber, really here of marketing professionals talking to lawyers, she makes sure that we're on the same page. the firm understands what the strategy is, and the strategic partners, the advertising marketing professionals, understand what the firm wants. There has to be a compromise, there has to be a blend, but you have to trust someone to get you there. But the only way you'll do that is if you have a map that you both agree on. And I think this is a great way to say these are the good golden opportunities that we can go get in this undiscovered land. But a map is what you need. A guide is what you need. So, Paul's a bit of Lewis, I'm a bit of Clark, and Lauren Kern is 100% Sacagawea.
Yeah.
So we're going to find the Western Passage. We're going to grow these firms, and we're going to go to the interview right now.
Let's go.
Any lawyer looking to grow their business online can generate more leads from their website by hiring Consultwebs. After working with lawyers exclusively since 1999, we've tested thousands of web designs and marketing strategies, so we know what flips and what flops. For more information, visit www.consultwebs.com today.
And now, a lawsome interview.
Lauren Kern is the founder and president of Lawyers Marketing Associates, a law firm development consulting agency that helps law firms grow by analyzing strengths and gaps to solve issues and develop definable, realistic, and attainable goals. Lauren got her JD from Campbell Law University, and she's managed to combine her law degree and legal experience with a longtime love of business development to create a career that she loves. It's this love and light and long-term relationship with Consultwebs that brought her to the attention of the show. Lauren, welcome to Lawsome.
Thank you.
So let's talk about Lawyer Marketing Associates. What's the origin story for you, and where are you guys at today?
Well, there's the long version and the short version, so I probably should stick with the short version.
It's up to you.
No, honestly, I briefly practiced, realized I probably at the time was probably feeling a little more like I was part of the problem than part of the solution by some other avenues. Walked into Ken Hardison's office at the time, Hardison Leon, then Hardison Associates, and now Hardison and Cochran. And at the time, he was realizing that he wanted to start a legal marketing agency in order to take back from whether it was TV stations, Yellow Page, companies, the 15% agency fees. And so he started Lawyers Marketing Agency and made me vice president. And from there, it was a trial by fire. Learn it, do it. And he's exceptionally creative in trying new things and wanting to do them. But he had definitely, I believe, kind of a cutting edge philosophy, which was doing client relationship marketing and measure, track, and measure again. And so those two together were really our focal points. And then as he began to decide to move out of the senior partner role and develop Pelma, he gave me the opportunity to acquire Lawyers Marketing Agency. And very soon after that acquisition, I realized that I wanted to take on, because of my love of business development and law firms and my connection there, that I wanted to focus more on law firm development and growth, with still a focus on client experience, and then also the measuring and tracking and all the things that I felt like were really going to be important in true firm development.
Oh, that's amazing. We love Ken. We love Pelma. So it's super cool that you're still involved and working with them. So before,
and that's also how. And by the way, that's also how I met Dale Tincher. And that was almost 20 years ago. 18 years ago. So,
nice.
Yeah.
So it's long-term success in this industry is difficult. I think it speaks to a lot that people have been doing it for a long time. So before we got on the interview here, Jake and I were hanging out on your website, and it's great. Your copy's clean and focused. Content is fantastic, and one thing that really stuck out is the law firm scorecard, which is like a simple
but 100% comprehensive overview of what it takes to grow and market a practice. So I was hoping you could talk about, where the idea came from, and can you kind of dive into the different sections?
Yeah, it came from the idea that, I think that various times when I was working, whether I was doing the marketing piece or, as we begin to transition our business model into more of a firm development piece, that law firms, we never learned in law school that you were going to have to run a business. My father's a physician. He didn't learn it in med school. And that really what was important was to take things apart into understandable pieces, whether it was marketing, whether it was processes and procedures, whether it was client experience, whether it was branding. And so those, you had to just decide what the core pieces of growth were. And then within those pieces, what the main elements were. And that really became the foundation for the scorecard. So it was that 50,000 feet up overview.
Mhm.
Then it was easier for me to explain to a potential client, okay, we've done that 50,000 feet overview. Here are your 4 or 5 categories. These are the subcategories, and this is kind of how you scored on those compared to other like firms. You're a solo practitioner, or you have 3 partners, or you have 4, 5 partners with this many associates, that kind of thing. And you compare them to like firms, and we take apart those sections, and then we start with one, and we work on repairing those. That we look at the whole, and we work on fixing that section. And then once we fixed it, again, we do that analysis, and hey, this is how we're doing on that. We're much better. Okay, let's move to the next section. Until we really have gotten it to an improved place, and you should be operating at a much better level. And then you come back, whether it's 6 months later or a year later or whatever, and you do it again. And it's just one of those things that keeps people accountable, and in an easy, understandable fashion.
Interesting. So the first step is client experience. Why did you choose that as the first aspect to focus on the scorecard?
Well, because and we always refer to ourselves as LMA. For LMA, really, that is the most comprehensive and the most quintessential foundational element of any law firm. I always use the quote from Field of Dreams: "If you build it, they will come." Client referrals are known to be across the board the best quality cases that you will ever receive. And obviously, if they're client referrals, you're not spending any money technically on getting them. You've already gotten the first one. And so the second one has not cost you any more money, any additional money. And so really your return on investment is exponential for the lifetime of that case, or the previous one even. And so our view is, if you build it, they will continue to come. And if that's what you're focused on, then you will continue to succeed. That's it. If that's what your firm is built on and continues to improve, your ability to succeed is exponential and endless.
So let me ask you a question. In LMA, do you have? It doesn't seem like lawyers are asking their clients more questions than they have to. So most lawyers aren't seeking client feedback. Is that the main, when you're talking about building it, are you talking about building this communication channel? How do you help lawyers specifically focus in on client experience? Is it surveys? Is it, something?
Oh, there's so many pieces of that puzzle. Yes, there are surveys that are that we encourage them to implement at different phases in their case.
Mm.
There is, the number one bar complaint is lack of communication, failure to return phone calls. We can eliminate that. We can set up timed, for lack of a better word, communication throughout a case where it doesn't matter if there's nothing going on in the case, where you reach out and you touch those clients. And then there are the little things. How do you treat them when you do interact with them? Do you know their name? What if they do call? Do you know their case?
Seriously.
Or do you go, so how is your case management system set up? Can you easily access that information? Do you know special things about them, like their daughter just got married or they just had surgery? How do you treat your client? And then, do you do newsletters? Do you do e-blasts? What is it that you do to make your client feel heard, not just listened to, heard?
Mm.
Do you respond to them? How do you respond to them? How do you communicate with them? Is it texting? Is it emails? Is it phone calls? Do you communicate and treat them in the way that they want to be communicated with? And would you want to be treated, or your mother to be treated? It's not difficult. It's the golden rule. These are all things that people have been doing for centuries. It's just, and generally what I do is when I work with a client, the very first things I do are I send them 3, maybe 4 books. Be Our Guest by Disney, The Starbucks Way, The Nordstrom Way. And then now some people get also the Chick-fil-A, one of the Chick-fil-A books.
My pleasure.
It's not rocket science.
For sure.
It's not rocket science, folks.
You'd be surprised. We've had several
It's true.
Intake specialists on the show, and I don't know why it's such a hard concept, but it seems, being personable, smiling, understanding that there's a customer service aspect to this.
Sure, yeah.
Somehow is lost
or
de-emphasized.
And it's like when I do my training, my client experience training with a law firm, one of the things that I say is they can hear a smile. So you better be doing it. And always remember that client, your worst day is better than their best day.
Yeah, for sure. Unless this is
they wouldn't hire you.
Yeah, right. Well, exactly. Unless you're like a real estate lawyer or something, chances are they're not in a real good spot. And I'm talking about mostly PI lawyers, criminal lawyers, family lawyers. Those are majority of my clients. Yeah. Well, us too, and that's it's tough. Empathy can be difficult, I think, especially if you're going from email to meeting to phone call to whatever. It's tough to keep that mindset. And I wanted to kind of roll that into the next question here, talking about experience and client experience and leaning a little more into strategy. People throw that word around a lot, especially with marketing, branding, and stuff. I'm curious, what does a good strategy entail in your mind?
For us, what we try to explain is that the key, and this goes to one of our other elements, if I remember correctly off the top of my head.
Yes, it
is with branding, and branding connects with your client experience. Branding is not only just, it clearly is not just a tagline and a visual component. Branding is who you are and why you're different, i.e. why they should hire you. And in general, your brand does not change. One of the things that is a key element of developing that brand is understanding your differentiators. What makes you different? Then the next thing is in strategy is developing the goals in order to achieve the growth that you want. And I mean, even really the numbers, what goals you have for year 1, year 3, year 5, and setting those goals, and then how to leverage those differentiators to achieve those goals. Then developing a plan, in some ways using those differentiators to achieve the short and long-term goals that we've established in step 1. And then most of the time, what we do is we back into those goals per practice area. In order to achieve this amount of growth for the overall firm, based on the number of cases that you've achieved over the past 2 years, we know that we're going to have this many PI cases or this many work comp cases or whatever. And the same thing goes for gross revenue growth and increase. And so how do you develop and use those differentiators to help achieve those goals? Well, to me, that's a strategy.
Quote bomb.
That's strategy.
Oh man, I love it. But it is one of those things that we throw around, branding, and strategy and differentiatings and UVPs and all that stuff. And I think I want to kind of break into this huger concept. I think there's like 2 worlds of marketing. There's one real, like that's in the real world, and then there's one that's staged, like a TED Talk. Business communities, legal marketers, lawyers, everyone talks about a desperate need for creativity in advertising and branding, like that distinct, different brand, that you're talking, cherish the concept of this brand. And we talk about shattering the molds and no more scales of justice and no more wrecked cars. And we're going to be different. But then, the client signs the check, and since they're paying for the whole party, the decision-making power rests with them. And so the resulting campaigns are usually like underinvested, rational and safe, totally have the scales, totally crashed cars. And then it's like they're not letting the marketing happen, or they're not letting the brand take over. I think there's a lot of micromanaged moments in marketing that fail to let it successfully perform its job. So how does LMA frame and overcome this struggle with your clients?
Well, I would say, from the outset, the scorecard allows us to make sure we're all on the same page, that they understand with regards to their expectations and the deliverables and what is reality. It's like all those, what I call misconceptions of, yes, we're going to do this marketing. It's going to be all frilly and pretty. And then we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And, it's like, I've worked with clients as recently as the past 2 years who are still doing yellow pages. And I was like, well, You have got to be kidding me.
Wow.
But again, it's that same concept of, well, our target audience or our ideal client is still reaching us this way. And our, brand is XYZ. And it's like, okay, let us give you an example. Let us give you some demographic research. And I guarantee you, your expectations and our deliverables and reality. I mean, it's like perception versus reality here, folks. And it's like, now we all need to be on the same page. Are we on the same page? Because if we aren't, then either we need to stop right here, because you're going to be wasting your money working with us.
Yeah.
Or you need to hand over the reins and let us do our job. And I have that issue, early, oftentimes. Or they go, yeah, we're paying her. You go practice law and I'll do my job, or we'll do our job.
Oh, wow.
You have a choice.
It's tough though, because when they're signing the check, they're like, the end result and the end decisions ultimately are coming from the client, but it's just how much they're going to allow for that expert advice to come in. And I love that you put in a third mediating kind of source where it's the scorecard. My opinions and your opinions are different. They will always be, but maybe once we meet on one piece of paper, we can start realizing what needs to go, what we can keep.
Well, and I'll be honest, that, a lot of times, whether it's a website or whether it's a client kit or whatever those initial pieces are, and 90% of the time it is a website. I point out to them, especially when they say there's nothing wrong with our website. I'm like, well, do you like your website? Oh yeah, we really do. And a lot of our friends tell us they like it. And I'm like, problem right there. You shouldn't like your website.
Huh?
You shouldn't like your website.
What?
You should not like your website.
Wow.
Your potential client should like your website, but you should not like your website. Unless you're liking it because potential clients like it. But you should not like your website. So another thing that we do early on is when we onboard a new client, we give them questions and requests for information. And our agreement establishes our expectations and requirements for how the relationship must work in order for us to achieve the goals that they have agreed on. So they can either do it or not do it. But
yeah, like otherwise, why did you hire us?
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Exactly. I mean, you should. I love that. I just want to go back and highlight that people should love their website. Unless they're photographers or something like that, you should love your website for what it's doing for your business. How it looks. Unless you're looking to hire a lawyer, it has nothing to do with that. It should be about results.
That's so hard to realize, though. Think about an advertising campaign out there. I want my TV ad to be something that I'm proud of. I want this or that. And you have to think, is Jim Adler 100%, sold and proud, brimming, and, his future generations are like, that's Grandpa Hammer. He knows that the Hammer is a branded character that creates a memorable asset in these people's minds, and it just travels as far as he can yell, and people call him. And when we talked to Jim Adler, and it was basically like, it doesn't matter how crazy I am. It only matters once they call how you handle that case. And so people think he's some hammer-wielding maniac when he's actually a really great lawyer who pays attention to the client experience, because without that, he has no referrals. What he gets his attention with is something weird. And,
Well, and it's like you said, we really like your website. When I did not only the website, but the brand, the initial rebranding, I sent it to my best client, and I sent it to maybe not my best client, and I sent not just that one, but a couple of other options, and that is the one that most of them selected, and that's where you go, okay, if lawyers like it, and that's who I'm trying to attract, guess what? That's what it's gonna. That's it.
Yeah, but seeking out that advice, listening to the advice, and then taking, it's weird, seeking counsel for your marketing, for your website, for your law firm, for your firm development, everything. Lauren, we could keep going. We can't, because people got stuff to do. Now listen, if people want to find more about you and LMA and the scorecard, where can they go?
Website, or they can call me. Or when they go to the website, there's a form, and actually that form goes straight to me. It doesn't go to one of the folks that works on my team. It goes straight to me, and I will respond to it. Usually within an hour or two, but definitely by the end of the day, and I'm on Eastern time. Or they can call me at the number that's on the website, and again, they can leave a message, and 90% of the time, I'll return the call. Usually the return phone calls are by the end of the day.
5 questions we ask everyone.
What was the last book you read?
Doing It Scared by Ruth Zobko.
Number 2, what is your favorite place?
The beach, our beach house.
Nice.
Awesome.
Okay. Number 3, what sites, blogs, newsletters, or podcasts do you regularly check in with?
Gretchen Rubin's Happier. The lawyers, it's the millennial lawyers.
So the Gen Y lawyer?
No, it's actually more like a Facebook group, and I definitely check in on it. And then Chris Picordo on his podcast. I do a lot of like self-improvement, and then just because I think that's important. Bruce Supko has a Doing It Scared podcast. So
cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, we like Chris. Chris is a good dude. He's been on the show
totally.
Too. Okay, number 4. This is probably the toughest question in the bunch. If you were stranded on a desert island and could only pick one condiment to take with you, what would it be?
Texas tea.
Righteous.
Nice.
Okay,
Brandon.
last one, number 5. After a long day or long week at work, how do you relax and unwind?
Sitting with my husband wherever we are and having, whether it's a cocktail or something, just sitting and chatting.
Just chilling. I love
Catching
that.
up on things.
Excellent.
Awesome.
For show notes, links, and info, go to thelawsonpodcast.com or follow us on Twitter or Facebook. Be sure to leave us a review and rating in iTunes or wherever you find the you listen to. Until next week, stay lawson.